Welcome to the Autodesk Infrastructure Design Suite Ultimate Workshop number 1. This is the second demonstration in our workshop. This demonstration will show you how to create a compelling existing conditions model using Autodesk InfraWorks 360 using county data sources, engineering and planning data sources. As you can see, we're in the site model that was created in demonstration 1 using Model Builder. Select data sources. We can grab SDF files, shape files, raster files, any sort of design or GIS data available to us. In this case, we're picking the county buildings that was provided. Once the data source has been added, you can then configure it. By selecting the buildings and then configure data source option, we can then go ahead and specify that this data is buildings, and we can give it a description. In this case, we're going to use residential homes. We can then use the attributes associated with the data set in our own InfraWorks model during the configuration. So we've associated the name field with the name field and the description field with the shape area attribute, changing the roof height to 24 feet with a roof slope of 25. Then we can go ahead and specify the source filter. This is where we're going to basically use any shape area less than 6,000 square feet is going to be outlined here in the source filter expression. Okay, then we can go ahead and use a tooltip to specify the name and the area of the object. So when we hover over it in the model, we should see a tooltip with those particular attributes. So the percentage symbol and the name of the InfraWorks property is what we're after here, so we can see that tooltip. So you can go ahead and stylize that, make it look good. Once you're done here, you can simply hit the close and refresh button. This will bring in the buildings less than 6,000 square feet and drape them to the DEM surface. And once the buildings are in, then you'll be able to inspect the model. Once the data source is configured, you can click into the model and inspect the results. So as you can see, the residential houses are now in, approximately 24 feet high with a roof slope of 25. The next data source we can configure is the vegetation layer received from the city. So this includes trees and forested areas. We can then configure this data source as a tree type. We can put in some information regarding the name of the data source and a default tree. The next thing we can do is drape the trees to the surface just to ensure that they're sitting on the ground. And this is the result of that data source configured. So as you can see, the trees came in nicely. And the next step is to apply a rule style to randomize the trees. So here we are creating a style rule called city trees, and we can then apply a random stylization to the tree layer called city trees. So that's why it was important to name that configuration for this data set, so we can very quickly randomize all of the items within that single data set. So by adding the different trees, we're just going to apply a 1-to-1 ratio for all of this data. So we're not going to have more than one or another. In other words, we'll just add 6 or 8 trees here. Say OK. And then we're going to commit that change and then run the style rules. So after it's completed, you should see a change in the vegetation based on a random selection of the data set. So it gives it a bit of a interesting look. This concludes our second demonstration for the workshop number 1.